Why, hello there. It's so nice to see you. I was wondering if you have concerns about the SARS-CoV-2 or the coronavirus vaccination, which is often mistakenly called COVID-19 vaccination. It's not actually a vaccination against COVID-19, it's a vaccination against the virus, the SARS-CoV-2 virus. But that's not the point. The point is that you may have questions. You may be saying, well, people are vaccinated and they're still getting sick. So, first of all, there was never a guarantee that the vaccinations would work against every variant of the virus. And there are lots of variants, major and minor. What it did say was that at the very least it would vaccinate you against the specific virus it was designed around, and that it would possibly provide partial protection against other variants. And that was basically it. But people are saying, okay, number one, vaccinated people are getting ill. True. Number two, unvaccinated people are getting ill. True. Number three, unvaccinated people are getting more severe COVID-19 than the vaccinated ones, and they are definitely dying in much larger numbers than the vaccinated people. That's all true. All right, so are there people who are dying after getting vaccinated? Yes. Now, I don't know the reasons why. It seems to have something to do with health issues like heart problems and stuff like that. The underlying causes, allergies perhaps, maybe they've got heart disease, maybe they've got an illness and they're not even aware that they've got an illness that is putting them at risk of a severe problem. I can't really speak about that, but what I want to speak about is specifically why are vaccinated people still testing positive for COVID-19, or sorry, SARS-CoV-2 or SARS-2, but not getting sick. Now, I'm going to read to you the description posted by onevaxnurse.com, and then I'm going to give you the summary of that. If you don't want to hear the long version, I'll give you the shorter version at the end. So if you want to fast forward, you're welcome to do so. It's all about the type of immunoglobulins produced from vaccination. For those of you who are hardcore scientists, ignore this information. It's geared toward, well, no, you don't have to. In fact, I welcome your comments. It's geared toward lay people and meant to be easy to understand. I'm going to do this person did what they considered an epic undersimplification of the subject, and honestly, to me, I didn't think it was simple enough because there are a lot of people who I'm quite sure are not going to be able to understand this. Either because they're uneducated or they're not intelligent enough. And I apologize. I'm not trying to offend anybody or anything like that. It's just facts of life. So, IgG is a type of immunoglobulin or antibody that is plentiful in our blood serum. These are the immune proteins that our COVID vaccine is really good at producing. IgA is a type of antibody that is plentiful in our mucous membranes, which means up in here, like the respiratory tract, nose and throat also, and down in here. Unfortunately, our vaccines are not very good at creating a lasting army of this type of antibody. SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes the disease COVID-19, is a respiratory virus, meaning that it enters the body through the respiratory mucosa. It sets up shop in the area of the back of the throat where the nasal passage meets, called the nasopharynx. While it's there, it enters those cells and reproduces. Once it reproduces in high enough numbers, it moves its way down the respiratory tract and attacks lung cells. From there it enters the whole body and attacks almost every organ system. When you are vaccinated, your mucous membranes in the back of your throat are still relatively unprotected because they lack the IgA antibody response at the mucous membrane level. This is why a vaccinated person is still showing high viral loads in their nasopharynx area when swabbed. However, once the virus tries to move down into the lungs, the very good vaccine-induced IgGs that are circulating in the vaccinated person's blood serum quickly identify the virus and begin destroying it. The body then says, hold on, where'd these guys come from? The antibodies see the open door at the nasopharynx and then move the troops to destroy. This is the reason that vaccinated people are not getting sick, even though they are getting technically infected, and why vaccinated people are contagious for less time than unvaccinated people are. Our defense is delayed at the upper respiratory tract, but we eventually have a neutralizing response. This is why it became important for even vaccinated people to begin wearing masks. We still have several days of the virus successfully replicating in the backs of our throats, which means that when we cough, sing, laugh, talk loudly, we can pass those viruses to other people. This is new with the Delta variant because it is better at unlocking those respiratory cells than other variants were. This is what changed. The previous variants were not as good, and it took them longer to unlock cells and replicate, so our vaccine-induced serum antibodies used to have more time to recognize and respond than they do now. So what you're seeing with vaccinated infected people is sudden onset sore throat, dry cough from nasopharynx irritation, eventually a fever as the virus tries to make it down the respiratory pathway and your immune system activates, but then a marked reduction in symptoms that suggest that the virus has been unsuccessful at invading any other organ systems. This is your reduction in hospitalizations and deaths. The lungs never get so sick that the person requires oxygen. Vaccine IgGs are very effective at staving off a massive infection, but not great at stopping the virus from initially replicating in the throat. This might suggest that we should focus efforts or funding into more research and development for nasal spray type vaccines. Several are in trial that produce better IgA response for virus neutralization at the mucous membranes, which would be better at halting transmissions of the virus between people. Now, the author of this article gave two links. They're links to technical articles in journals. I'm going to show you the links, but I read the abstracts and I can understand them, but I wasn't exactly sure if they support the article. So go ahead and take a look if you want. That's it right there. stm.sciencemag.org/content/13/577/EABD2223 and pubmed.ncbi.nlm.nih.gov/341334415. Okay, now I want to give you the short version. Our body produces more than one type of antibody. There are IgAs and IgGs and IgMs and IgEs and so on and so forth. And they operate in, they do different things and they work in different areas. The vaccination works in a way that causes the IgGs to get a boost, that particular antibody. And those, unfortunately, according to this article, are not in the area where the virus usually gets a hold on you, or usually invades you, I should say. And that would be the nose, the mouth, the throat, the nasopharynx, which is actually like right back in this area here, and it connects the nose, the mouth, the eyes, and the ears together through the passages. So it starts there, and it works its way down into your lungs, and in the worst cases, all your almost all, I should say, of your organs are attacked. Now, the antibody that's on duty up here, the IgA, apparently the vaccination supposedly isn't as good at defending. Isn't, I guess, prepped enough by the vaccination. So the virus has an easier time of getting in up here. Not as easy as with people who are unvaccinated, okay? This is specifically for people who are vaccinated. Okay, so it gets into your head, and so if you have a swab test, since it's in your head and you're swabbing your mouth or your nose, you're going to get a positive test result. Now, couple of things. First of all, once it starts moving into your lungs, the other antibodies, the IgGs, take over and they squish it. They kill it. Okay? So you're not going to get as severe of a problem, and it won't last as long. You're not going to be communicable as long. Let's see, you're less likely to develop COVID-19 and pneumonia. You're less likely to be hospitalized. You're less likely to die. So, I would encourage you to be very careful. I've done research about medicine on the regular web, and then I look at articles. And articles are a better source of information, but articles can be misleading, even the ones that are published in journals. Sometimes they're not peer-reviewed when they're released onto the web. Sometimes They are peer-reviewed, but they are flawed because they don't use double blinds. They don't use and other techniques that help to reduce the risks of misunderstanding the results. And a lot of times there are other confounding factors. Like, for example, when I was researching about cat food, or sorry, not cat food, MSG. When I was researching about MSG, I first came across a lot of information that suggested MSG is dangerous for all of us, and it was because of studies they did on mice. And then I discovered that the way mice react to MSG is different than the way humans react to MSG, and that in most cases, humans don't have a lot of problems with MSG, although you can have increased sensitivity to pain in some cases, but mice do have problems. So, but when I looked at the regular web, just searching Google or something else like that, Bing, DuckDuckGo, whatever, I discovered there's a lot of nonsense out there, a lot of disinformation that is not supported by science, a lot of information that is not supported by field results, or which is to say results that are happening in the real world. Okay, so they say, oh well, you can drink this concoction that's got ginkgo biloba and it's got curcumin and it's got ginger, and your memory is going to improve within 7 days. And yet, if you research, you may discover that that's not the case. So these are unfounded or unsubstantiated claims. So and the other problem with looking at technical articles is even just reading the abstract, which is basically a summary of the article and and the results of the article of the researchers, should say, you may not understand what they're saying. Sometimes the authors will write the abstract in simple language that anybody can understand, but oftentimes it is technical in nature, and you have to be able to understand your education in science has to be good enough, and your understanding of medicine has to be good enough, and your understanding of English has to be good enough. And sometimes the people who are writing these things are not native English speakers, so there are flaws in their English. But still, these journals are a much more reliable source than, say, going to the regular web and searching there. Like there is I'm not going to name his name, but there is a famous doctor out there, and he is anti-vax, and he has been promoting the claim of autism being caused by vaccinations and all these other things that he claims. And here is the point where you start to ask a question if you're thinking, and he's selling. Okay, so he's not just trying to warn people out of the goodness of his heart. He's promoting products. They may be his products, they may be somebody else's products, but he's selling them. So right there, that should indicate to you, here's a guy who's trying to make a buck. Now, is he legitimate or not? Okay, so I looked into vaccinations, and millions, hundreds of millions of lives have been saved by vaccinations. A lot of diseases have been halted or at least minimized because of vaccinations. And it's something that's much more effective than, say, an antibiotic, which, because we misuse antibiotics all the time, a lot of bacteria and fungus and viruses are now immune to the effects of these medications. And we're going to eventually get to the point where our drugs are not going to work, and we're going to have a better solution by that time. And some of our drugs don't work on certain of these things anyways. There are certain bugs that are basically, certain germs I should say, that are basically immune to everything we've got. And the alternatives to those now useless drugs are sometimes extreme. So the point I'm making here is, I know you've been hearing a lot of weird things about the vaccine. I've had the vaccine, and I just had a sore arm, just like any other vaccine I've ever had that I can recall. And my kids both had vaccines, the SARS-CoV-2 vaccine. And my son, basically, he just had a sore arm with his. We've all got the Pfizer shot, okay? And my daughter got it, actually, and she had a little bit more symptoms. She had some lethargy and sleepiness the first day. The second day on both of them, she had a headache. And of course, she had a sore arm for both of them. But other than that, she was just fine. And my kids have had all their shots, all their vaccinations and inoculations, and they're fine, and they've never had any adverse reactions to any of them that were anything more than extremely minor. No autism or anything like that. And okay, so let's. I don't really want to get on the autism thing in this video because this is not about that. This is about the SARS-2 vaccination. If you have concerns, find a legitimate expert in epidemiology and immunology. Don't go to general doctors. I'm not saying that they don't know what they're talking about, but they know less often because they don't specialize in that area of science. And some of them have been, shall we say, indoctrinated to believe things that are not true. So find specialists who are experts in immunology and or epidemiology and talk to them about what they think of the virus, about COVID-19, and about the vaccine. And be very careful. A couple of weeks ago, I found a channel on YouTube that was called Stu Peters' Show, and the guy brought on a health economist, which she did not misrepresent her as that such, but she talked as if she were an expert in science and medicine, and which she clearly was not. And they put up a video clip of a young lady putting keys and coins on her head. And you could see at one point that when she stuck it against her head, it fell off and she had to place it up there again. But she was claiming magnetism caused by the virus. Or at least they were, Stu and this Dr. Ruby or whatever her name was. And they made a lot of other claims. And he, in his comment, his description of his video, he referenced a National Institutes of Health article that was about something similar to the process that they were claiming caused the magnetization of the human body, which is called magnifaction, I believe. But it was still in trial stages. It was not effective to be used for vaccinations, and it was not the same thing that they were talking about in the video. So it was an irrelevant link placed there to mislead people into thinking that they were basing their statements on fact. So you can actually go to my channel here and search for my recent video where I did the same thing as the girl with coins and keys, and then I used magnets to demonstrate that absolutely none of them were were made with iron so that it could be attracted to a magnet. And I explained that they are non-magnetic metals, which they could contain iron in them, but it's an alloy that is not magnetic or not attracted to magnets. And that the reason I was able to stick all these objects to my skin was because I had come home from work and I was very sweaty, and the sweat had dried out and made that icky, sticky film on my skin, and that was keeping everything in place. So be very careful, because I was very fortunate that I found that, I feel, because not only did I debunk them in my response to them in the comments, I also reported them to Facebook, and the entire channel got banned. I was just hoping the video would get taken down, but their channel apparently must have had other false information on it, and they were banned. And so I feel good about that. I don't feel any remorse or regret because the guy was lying and making people scared. This Dr. Ruby was also doing the same. And yes, she's a doctor of philosophy. She's not a medical doctor. Okay, so I'm going to cut it here. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.